Hey, hi, and hello, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. The monthly call-in music talk show that I do over at NTS, Call Me Maybe, we did another episode. So sit back, chill out, relax, and hey, maybe you could even listen live to the next episode and call in if you're around. Either way, without any further ado, here is the Call Me Maybe comp. Bam. What are we talking about today? Anything you want to, music-wise, like usual, but things that are on the top of my mind, what are they? Overrated albums. What albums do you think are a little overhyped? They're not that good. People are making a big deal of them. And why are they doing it? They kind of stink. Let me know what albums you think are overrated. There's a new Oasis album on the way. You guys are from the UK. Don't you want to talk about that? Don't you have opinions on that? Like, isn't this like the Berlin Wall falling for you guys? What's going on? I want the inside scoop on this. Like, what does this mean culturally at this point? Oasis getting back together and potentially putting out new music. I would also like to know what your thoughts are on the Taylor Swift Kamala Harris endorsement. Should we even care what pop stars think about politics in the first place? Should it factor as much as it does? Does it matter to you whether or not your favorite artists agree or disagree with you politically? Does it play into your enjoyment of their music in any way whatsoever? Again, would love to talk about all of that and whatever else is on your mind on this new episode of Call Me Maybe with Anthony Fantano. Who's on the line? Hello?
Hello there, Tony. It's Macca.
It's who?
It's Macca. You don't mind if I call you Tony?
No. I will allow it just because I find your accent so charming.
I feel like we've known each other for so long. I can call you Tony. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, I don't agree, but I'll allow you to feel that way. What's going on?
So the theme's overrated.
I feel like right? that's one thing that's on my mind. You know, do you have an overrated album in mind that you feel like is just a little played out or just overhyped that you're tired of hearing about the hype on?
I think the Beatles are a little bit overrated, don't you?
I don't know if I agree with that. But why exactly, with this novel take that you have given unto me, do you feel like the Beatles are overrated?
It's just, four lads from Liverpool who shook the world.
Just four lads. I mean, there's a lot of bands you could say are four lads, three lads, two lads, one lad,
I think of all the Beatles, Ringo Starr is by far the most overrated and is the most likely to survive the longest.
So Ringo, arguably, he's kind of arguably the least popular Beatle, I mean, it's you really think he's the most overrated Beatle?
I mean, his name's not even Ringo, it's Richard.
Okay. I mean, you're going to begrudge the man a stage name?
No, it'd be wrong of me since I told you my name's Macca, wouldn't it?
Right, exactly. So, I mean, let's not call the kettle black here. So, really, like, what exactly is your point right now? Just the Beatles are mid, that's it?
No, I think just generally I wanted to talk about the Beatles.
Okay, well, what else do you have to say about them other than Ringo being overrated and having a fake stage name?
Could it be that Wings were better than the Beatles?
No, I don't think that could be. But you tried. You tried. You are fishing for. You're reaching for something. The stars. Whatever it is.
The gutter.
But I don't know if I would go as far as to say Wings were better than the Beatles. Well, here's my question to you, and this will be the last thing I ask you. I feel like this is important. If Wings are better than the Beatles, better at what?
Did I say that Wings were better than the Beatles? I don't think I did.
Let's say hypothetically they were better than the Beatles. If they were better than the Beatles, what would they be better at?
Letting Paul do what he wanted to do.
That, you got a point there. And I think that's absolutely positively true.
That's important, Tony, isn't it? Without Paul, John's never getting off the smack. George isn't quitting the band and making All Things Must Pass greatest album ever made by a Beatle.
Right.
And Ringo Starr's still picking his nose. So
Right. I mean,
that's why I think
we can't sit here and ask. We can't sit here and act though as if Paul didn't have his sway in the Beatles though. You know, it's not as if they never let the guy do what he wanted.
I know, but I think Linda let him do even more.
Sure. No, it's true. All right. Well, thank you very much for calling in. I appreciate you with that very, 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 very on point argument about what Wings were better at. Thank you very much for calling in.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, right. Tony.
Bye. Beautiful. Hello. You're on Call Me Maybe with Fantano. nts.live/call Fantano. Get queued up. Let's have a conversation. Are they there?
I'm here. My mic was like deactivated, but now it is activated.
Okay, so, totally activated.
So basically, Machine Girl has done a track with Lost Sick Puppy, and
sure, yeah.
I'm gonna go see Lost Sick Puppy in November, and then that made me think, okay, I'm gonna go to like a couple of concerts and gigs over the next couple of months. So maybe you could do a quick rating of my lineup.
Oh. Okay. Well, I mean, if Lost Sick Puppy is one, I'm very hype about that because I really liked their latest record. I thought that was fire.
I love it too.
So I mean, I'd give that at least an 8.
Good.
So what else do you have lined up as far as like live shows?
So yeah, then in like 2 weeks, then I'm gonna go see Jamie XX.
Okay, fire. I'm really excited for that album. I mean, I feel like he has so many dance classics under his belt at this point. So I mean, I would rate that show at least an 8 too. That's a fire idea too. That's good on you.
Good. And I got 3 left. So then in December, I'm going to see Bicep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'd say like a 6 or 7. That should be fun.
In February, I'm going to go see JPEG Mafia for the 3rd time.
Wow. Okay. For the 3rd time?
For the 3rd time.
Okay. All right. I mean, I feel like that's a 9. That's at least a 9. That's fire. I mean,
yeah.
So is that it?
So no, there's one more, which is Brian Jonestown Massacre.
Brian Jonestown Massacre. I kind of feel like they're okay. I kind of feel like they're. Yeah, I mean, you know, are they still going to be like? Hold on one second. Brian Jones. What are they even doing at this point? Honestly.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure are they releasing a new album soon or something like that. But they released a song last year called "Maybe Make It Right," and it was really good. It was really fire.
Okay. I mean, are they still going to be like beefing with the Dandy Warhols like on stage and stuff?
I don't know, but if they were, then like that would make for a really fun gig. So we'll see.
Okay, I guess we'll see. You know, I'll give it maybe a generous 6. I mean, possibly. Oh. You know, I mean, it's like there's a legacy element to it that makes it interesting. I'll say that.
Like, will somebody talk about Oasis, like the new album? Please give us some of this content.
Yes, please.
And to be honest, I don't really care either, but I did think of something of something that might be kind of interesting for their new album.
Okay, what do you think would be interesting for the new Oasis album?
Might be kind of cool if they did this kind of like meta break the fourth wall, where like during the album, like they're trying to make a music album, but then they just keep like in the middle of each song, then they just get into a fight like about the song and just keep disagreeing on different things. Like it could be trivial things or things about the song, and then that would be a really kind of a meta. They're breaking up on this album again.
I mean, you know what I want? Because the thing is, like, they've already made the record and they had this like whole tour thing planned out, so they must have been getting along for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I want 10 tracks. And in between each track, I want an interlude of the therapy they were doing, like either in person or over Zoom, where they're talking about their childhood trauma, where they're talking about just the jealousy, where they're talking about the problems, and they're really working through it. You know, that's what I want. And I want all the songs. It should be like TPAB, you know, like each therapy session contains a line that like goes into the next song and kind of like is about what the therapy was about.
That would be good. That would be good and a good reference to a great album. Or else maybe they could do like the Beavis and Butthead skits on Speeding Bullet to Heaven and just like start like bickering with each other.
Oh, maybe that too. Thank you very much for calling in. We're talking Oasis. We're talking overrated albums. We're talking about a lot of stuff. We're talking about whatever you want at nts.live/callfantano. Producer Sean, do we have the next caller queued up, or are we going into a song?
We got Ignacio here who has a hot take.
Hi, hello.
Hi, hello, how are you?
Doing fine, thanks.
What would you say the spice level of this take is from 0 to 10?
Well, if I had to give a number, I would say light 7 to a strong 6, maybe.
Okay, so like a strong 6, light 7 spice level on this take. All right, I'm gonna judge that based on what you are about to say. So what is it?
I think this Disintegration, not that the Cure album, is not that good. I think it was very boring when I heard it at the first time.
Are there other Cure albums that you gravitate more toward?
Actually, no. That's the only one I heard because I heard it and I didn't like it, and I don't know. The songs are boring. They're like the same thing for like 6 minutes, maybe.
Like Pictures of You?
Yeah.
That's a long song, but that's a beautiful that's a beautiful anthem. You didn't like Pictures of You?
No, not really.
Okay, listen. I would say to you, as far as the Cure goes, and look, not everybody needs to like Disintegration. They're a very versatile band with a very deep catalog, and all their albums sound very distinctly different for the most part. If you're looking for something that is a bit on the poppier and more accessible side, maybe you want something that is a bit easier on the ears. Yeah, sure, you listen to Disintegration. But if you want something kind of maybe more rocky, more just like has more riffs, is a little bit more rough and punky and straightforward, you could listen to Three Imaginary Boys. If you want something that's a bit gothy or a bit heavier, kind of darker, maybe a bit more tortured, you can listen to Pornography. There's versatility across the Cure catalog. Listen, I'm not saying you have to like Disintegration, but try out some other albums because they have a lot of different kind of angles and vibes across their catalog. So, but I would actually say, while maybe the take was a bit straightforward, the spice level was high. The chat was not feeling that take. The chat reacted very strongly to that take. So I mean, I think you underrated the spice level just a little bit. But I appreciate you coming through and talking to me. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming through.
I am here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming through. It's Call Me Maybe. nts.live/callfantano. You did it. You got queued up. We're having a conversation. What do you want to talk about? Is there an overrated album on your mind? Do you care about Taylor Swift? Do you care about Oasis? Kendrick playing the Super Bowl? Any of those things? Are those on your mind, or is it something else?
What is on my mind is not about that. I do love that Jordy Grip song, actually. Okay. It's very funny.
I like it as well. It gets really ridiculous in the second half.
Yeah. So I just want to talk not about an overrated album or band. I wanted to talk about an underrated, if I may.
That's fair game. Let's go.
Because recently I just discovered Stereolab.
Okay.
And I feel that I'm not sure if they're underrated on your opinion, but I think that they're not commented on too much on music forums, on music discussion. And I just thought they sound amazing. They have like a very interesting sound, not very like conventional in terms like indie, kind of like jazz and stuff like that. And I wanted to ask you if you think if that is because they're kind of like described as an electronic project instead of like an indie.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I think it's a blend. I mean, okay, first off, for anybody who's not in the know, Stereolab, I would say, is kind of like combined the UK's and like France's one of their best, contributions to the indie canon, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, the band is kind of considered an indie band. That is true, but I feel like a lot of that has to do with sort of like the time period in which they cropped up You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if they cropped up earlier, I feel like they would have maybe landed under some different sort of categories. But with that being said, like, you know, for sure, like as far as like underground lo-fi pop music goes, and, you know, they most definitely sort of like venture into electronic music too, given a lot of the beats that back their songs and the synthesizers and, you know, various electronics that are included in their tracks. Like, yeah, I mean, that categorization is not incorrect. They have numerous classics under their belt. Dots and Loops, Emperor Tomato Ketchup.
That one is amazing. That was,
yeah. I mean, you know, those are kind of their most critically acclaimed, and even their recent, almost like switched on compilation records that they've been putting out have a lot of interesting tracks on them. Like, I mean, look, in music nerd forums and like, you know, various hubs like that on the internet, they're very well known and respected. Like, you know, but I will sort of like agree with maybe the assessment that like when I go on to sort of maybe like hip music sort of enclaves that maybe skew a bit younger, like on TikTok or something like that, I don't see as much maybe Stereolab discourse.
They're not very TikTok-able.
I mean,
yeah.
look. I mean, there are some like hip indie kids on TikTok talking about a lot of cool other bands. You know, I just maybe don't see Stereolab quite as much. Maybe you need to be that guy. You know, maybe you need to be hopping on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, and making the case for Stereolab.
I think that that's me. That's my mission.
I also believe, shout out to Letitia Sadier, I believe she just came out with a solo album, just earlier this year, Rooting for Love. So, I mean, she, know, she's still active as well.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I would check that out. Talking about music nerds, if I may, I have another question. Do you think part of the culture is more like bragging about your taste or more about the music?
No, this is most definitely an interesting question. And this will be the last thing that I say. I think there is most definitely like tendencies among those sorts of crowds, rate your music and so on and so forth, for people to be a little kind of like, you know, superior and, you know, we'll have kind of like a superiority complex about their taste and the way they listen to things and the way they prefer things. I mean, you know, I've seen it. I've heard it from people who deal with these people on like Hinge dates and so on and so forth, and are like, oh, well, you know, you don't like what I like the way I like it. And, you know, they're just like explaining it very pretentiously. And unfortunately, like, you know, these people need to be kind of like avoided. They're a very loud and annoying vocal minority. Like, for the most part, I think a lot of people who kind of like are sharing their taste on these platforms and on Twitter as well, like they're kind of looking for connection, because at the end of the day, like, you know, these are all very kind of niche things that we're into and kind of appreciating at the end of the day. And, you know, part of what makes music and music culture so interesting and so gratifying is to be able to like get some kind of like, you know, validation in terms of like, you know, you experience it with other people. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of experiencing it by yourself can be fulfilling, but it can also be like even greater to be able to sort of like have that experience with others who are enjoying it as well, maybe in their own way, but enjoying it too. And it does like, you know, it can make the world feel a little less lonely to sort of like know that something has like kind of touched somebody in the same way that it has you on some level. So, I mean, I think there are a lot of people.
You find your people. Yeah, that was something on my mind, and I wanted to know your opinion about it, because I feel that some of your fan base, including me, I feel like I've like observated.
Oh yeah. No, there's most definitely people like that who follow me too. But I appreciate you calling in and reminding me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Sean, do we have somebody who wants to have a conversation on the line?
We got Nolan right here, it looks like.
Nolan is on the line. Nolan?
You hear Nolan?
Hello.
Nolan, is it you?
Hello. Yes, it's me, Fantano.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. What is on your mind? Anything having to do with any of the topics I have brought up, or is it something else completely different?
So there's two things I wanted to ask, if it's okay with you. One does involve music.
Hit me with the first most important and music-related thing, and then we'll see if you're a good boy, if you deserve to ask a second question.
Okay, so one musical discography before, that I was I'm trying to get into a little bit now is Frank Zappa.
Okay, yeah.
Who I know you're very familiar with. You gave Hot Rats a 10. But first up, would you also say Apostrophe is a 10?
I would say Apostrophe kind of ranks around in that vicinity for me. That's an incredible record.
Would you say any albums that he's made are overrated?
God, he has such a huge catalog. You know, I would say like for me creatively, and this isn't to say he doesn't have good late era albums, but like around like Chic Your Booty, that's kind of where things for me creatively from him start to drop off. Like I kind of feel like the raunchiness of some of those tracks is just like a little cringe and hasn't like aged super great. And I kind of feel like as comedic as his writing, it tends to sort of skew over the course of his entire career. I kind of feel like he maybe went like a little more lowbrow than usual, like around that time period. I feel like the humor and the comedy on previous records was obviously goofy, but a bit more interesting and smarter. You know, especially on like We're Only in It for the Money, where you get a lot of social commentary and so on and so forth. I'm not really that into Lumpy Gravy as far as like a prime era Zappa album, as much as like experimentalists and like, you know, tape heads and so on and so forth are like into that album. I don't really get a whole lot out of it personally. How do you call in? Somebody's asking in chat. nts.live/callfantano. I mean, I don't know if I would say it's like garbage or anything like that. I think creatively, as far as like, you know, process goes, it's an interesting album, but I just don't really get a lot out of listening to it. As far as like cultural relevancy and commentary and so on and so forth, like you could argue that like the 60s and the 70s, he was most definitely at a high. But when he was like more established as a media figure, like in the 80s and the 90s as being like kind of a rock veteran, he actually did have a lot of important and very significant things to say when it came to, you know, like the religious rights push to censor certain artists and censor certain records and so on and so forth. I mean, you could look up on YouTube. There's like video of him sort of like, you know, speaking, I believe, in front of Congress it is, and sort of like,
yeah, I remember that.
In like defense of like, you know, anti-censorship stuff and that sort of thing. So, you know, all of which is like vitally important to the history of like rock music and pop music and so on and so forth. So he never really stopped like fighting the good fight or having significant things to say about politics, about music and art, about the music industry, as it were. He had a lot of opinions on sort of like how creatively things shifted over time, and had his own kind of like opinions about like maybe record labels were in a better place when those who were kind of like throwing out the money didn't really have quite as much say in the creative side of things and just didn't really know what to think about a lot of the stuff that they were putting out, and just like were kind of like taking a lot of chances on a lot of different artists and records. Whereas like now A&Rs all think that they have to be tastemakers and think they're really hip and, you know, need to sort of like have an active role in deciding what is like the next big hot thing. Whereas like it kind of feels like less organic in that way. You know, but again, that was like his view, not one that I necessarily 100% disagree with, but he always like had interesting thoughts to put out there. But I appreciate you calling up and taking an appreciation for one of the best artists of, you know, really of all time. Let's have a conversation. My beautiful producer, Sean, I believe, has our next caller, Uday, queued up. Uday, are you there?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, Bald Man. I'm doing very well.
What's going on?
Yeah, nothing much. Reaching out from Montreal, Canada.
Right.
With the Eras Tour poster in the background. Wanted to talk to you about BRAT.
Okay.
As a fellow BRAT summer enthusiast myself,
okay,
I don't think it was a 10 out of 10. I think it was an 8.
You think it was an 8?
I think it was an 8.
What are like the 3 worst tracks on the record that to you make it like you know, kind of a weak record? Obviously, a record that is falling short of a 10, it's got to have weak spots. What are the weak spots?
I think Girl So Confusing, the non-remix version.
The non-remix version. So you feel like it was improved?
I feel like it was improved a ton with the second vocalist. I also think that 360 is just a shittier version of 365.
Okay. All right. Do you have another hot take here, or are those kind of your two biggest weak points on the record?
I feel. Hold on. Let me pull up the track list.
Okay. No. Never mind. You brought up two. I'm gonna say.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 360. While maybe it is not the most thorough track structurally, it does not hit as hard as some of the louder and more thumping songs on the record. It's a very cute, endearing intro to the album. It's a great glitzy, glittery, fun little tone setter for the record. It's very pretty, and I feel like it's a great setup for the album. I'm not expecting the record to just sort of like ream me the second that it starts. It's a good start to the record and very fun and very cute and very bouncy. On top of that, Girl So Confusing is one of the most interesting songs topically on the entire record. I just kind of love the back and forth. I love the internal sort of like, struggle and drama and questioning and insecurity there. And there's a lot of themes of insecurity around the entire record. And I feel like that song is sort of like pivotal to expressing those. I just don't really, those are two of my favorites on the record. I don't see those as weak points.
I think the highlight of the album is I think about it all the time, because obviously
that's great. But there's some people who would kind of disagree because they feel like maybe it's a little short, and it's some people didn't really like her talk singing and so on and so forth, which maybe I could see a little bit more, but I still think that song is a great emotional moment.
If it's going to be a 10 out of 10, right? My standards for 10 out of 10 are Vessel by 21 Pilots and T-Pab.
What time? Okay, time. Hold on. Hold the phone.
Let's go.
Your standards for a 10 are T-Pab.
Yes.
And also Vessel from 21 Pilots.
Yes.
And
actually, no. We'll toss in 1,000 Gex in the Tree of Clues into that as well. Those are my top 3.
Okay. Listen. I did not come on here to be trolled to this depth. Okay. I did not come on here to be trolled to quite this depth. This is a level of trolling I did not anticipate today.
You are not being trolled. This is unironically what I believe.
You're telling me Brat is out of the realm of 10 out of 10 consideration because of a 100 Gex remix album?
Yes.
I'm not even sure 100 Gex themselves would agree with that. I'm not even sure if Dylan, who worked with Charlie on music multiple times, would agree with you on that.
I'm sorry. It's just the truth. The Fall Out Boy, Nicole Dollanganger, and I forgot who the other person is, on that remix of Hand Crushed by a Mallet, one of the best songs of all time. Also, if you're bringing up Charlie's feature on Ringtone improves that song to a level I thought was humanly impossible.
No, that's a great remix. I love that remix. Okay, listen, I'm gonna. I feel like you have fought formidably, but I think we're gonna have to call it there. Thank you very much for coming through, Uday, and I hope you listen. I hope you get a lot of really great, amazing back-to-back spins out of T-Pab and Vessel. Just keep on keeping on. Funny announcement for anybody who's not in on that, but I am trying to squat 365 pounds as like a personal goal in celebration of Brat, and I did it. And there will be proof of it landing on the internet very soon. And there you have it, a full compilation of calls from our Call Me Maybe show. Shout out to all who participated, and once more to NTS for having me on. They're the best. You guys are the best. Again, find out more about the show via the link in the description box. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. We will also link you to a playlist of videos we've done around the show so far. And that is going to be it until the next one. Anthony Fantano, Call Me Maybe, forever.